Okay, today I'm going to show you way number 4 to pass the chemistry regents. This deals with chemical properties versus physical properties. Whenever you see a chemical property, you want to think about something that, when you observe it, would cause the chemical composition to change. So you're looking for words like reacts with or combines to produce something new. In contrast, physical properties are things that can be observed about a substance that does not alter the chemical composition. So these include things like the current temperature, the color, whether or not it's bendable, so things like its malleability or ductility. So let's try some sample regents questions that deal with this idea. Example of a physical property of an element is the element's ability to. So when you think physical property, think not reacting with. So pause the video and think about what the correct answer is. Okay, we see that the answer is D. Notice that choices A and B all involve the word react with, so those must be chemical properties. The ability to form a compound with chlorine, choice C, involves the reaction with chlorine, so by definition it has to be a chemical property. Therefore, the answer must be D, to form an aqueous solution. If you recall, aqueous solutions just means ability to dissolve in water. And whenever you dissolve something in water, it does not alter the chemical composition of an element. So it must be a physical property. Let's try another one. Which process is a chemical change? So again, we're looking for chemical changes, so we're looking for words like reacts with or forms something new. Pause the video and consider which one's the answer. Okay, look at choices A, B, and C. When you think melting, you're converting from a solid to a liquid. When you're boiling, you're converting a liquid to a solid. And subliming is another type of phase change in which you're converting something from a solid to a gas. So A, B, and C all involve phase changes. And notice the chemical composition of the substance, in this case water, never actually changes during a phase change. Water is still water, even if it turns into a gas. Likewise, when it turns into ice or melts from ice into water, it still has the same H2O composition. Same thing with subliming. It changes from a solid to a gas, but it's still H2O in the end. When you think of the word decomposing water, if you recall, decomposing means you take a substance and break it up into the elements that make it up. So if H2O is decomposing, we're taking H2O and breaking it up into its constituent elements, in this case, hydrogen and oxygen. So decomposing must be a chemical change. So the answer is D. Here we see a sample of carbon dioxide solid and a sample of carbon dioxide gas differ in there. So again, think about what the correct answer is and see how it deals with this idea. Okay, we know that the answer must be D, physical properties, because the chemical composition of carbon dioxide, whether it's a solid or a gas, never actually changes. If you look at empirical formula just means the simplified formula of that compound. In this case, here we have CO2 and CO2. There's no way to simplify this ratio of 1 to 2, so it would just be CO2 as its empirical formula. Likewise, the molecular structure is the same whether you're a solid or a gas, because we're not changing the chemical composition. Therefore, the only thing that we're really changing here is the phase in which carbon dioxide is in. It's a solid in this case and a gas in this case. Recall that phase changes must be a physical property. Let's try another one. Which statement describes the chemical property of bromine? We think chemical properties, think about this idea of reacting with or combining to producing something new. Okay, We know that the answer is C. Why? Well, bromine combines with aluminum to produce aluminum bromide. This idea of combining with another element to produce a brand new compound changes its chemical composition. So by default, it must be the chemical property. Why is it not A? Well, again, solubility is the ability to dissolve in water, and you're not changing the elemental structure of bromine when it's dissolving in water. It's still bromine, even when dissolved. Likewise, bromine has a reddish-brown color. Well, here we're just identifying the color as a physical property. Observing the color of bromine does not change its chemical composition. Look at D. Here it says bromine changes from a liquid to a gas. And again, all phase changes are physical properties because it doesn't change the chemical composition. Let's try another one. Which statement describes the chemical property of hydrogen gas? Chemical property. Okay, we see that the answer has to be A because hydrogen gas burns in the air. Here we show hydrogen combusting to form a brand new compound. So it's reacting with air and burning to form a brand new compound. As a result, it has to be a chemical property. Things like flammability include chemical properties. Notice choice B, the fact that it's colorless. Again, observing the color doesn't change the chemical composition, so it has to be a physical property. Density is another physical property. You can measure its mass divided by its volume, and again, that's not going to change the chemical composition. Here we see boiling point. Well, whether or not it boils has to do with converting a substance in liquid form to gas form, and that doesn't change its chemical composition. So it has to be a physical property. In general, when you're looking for physical properties, look at things like density, hardness, luster, things that you can observe, its ability to dissolve in water. One way people get tripped up is the idea of electrical conductivity. Passing an electrical current through something to see whether or not it conducts electricity doesn't actually alter the chemical composition. So these are all physical properties. Chemical properties include things like reacting with, so its combustibility, whether or not it burns in air, its reactivity, its ability to react with oxygen, or its ability to react with vinegar or acid. Anything like that has to do with chemical properties. pH is another chemical property because it deals with changing the chemical composition of an acid and giving away some type of ion in the process. So hopefully this helps. Thank you.